Mike Tomlin. Tom Pelisero was on the Rich Eisen show on Friday and had a very interesting take, outlook, explanation, all of the above on Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. He was asked to just kind of give a rundown of everything that has happened with the Pittsburgh Steelers and in the NFL. And in the midst of a rant, dropped that he believes that Mike Tomlin is quote unquote year to year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, he corrected himself and said that contractually he's not year to year, which he's not. He signed, a multi-year deal last offseason, or this past offseason, and is there, I believe, the next 2 years at this point. There might be a third in there, but I think it's this year and next year. But he said this about Mike Tomlin, quote, "My belief is Mike Tomlin will be the head coach of the Steelers for as long as he wants to be, but he's entering his 19th year. There is not a lot of precedent in the modern NFL, Bill Belichick aside, for somebody going on 20 years with one team. It just doesn't happen." Mike Tomlin, we all know, has never had a losing season in Pittsburgh. He has a lot of influence over all aspects of the organization personnel. Look no further than Aaron Rodgers, who Mike Tomlin stumped for from the start. He finished by saying, "The results influence everything here. Mike Tomlin's own wishes influence things. I don't foresee, and nothing about his history of the Rooney family would indicate that they would fire Mike Tomlin. I talked with Art Rooney about this last summer. What he said was, my standard is as long as the locker room is still listening to the coach and we believe in the coach, there's no reason to make a change." Year to year is what stands out. A massive thing to say about Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, 19 years, you're looking at Bill Belichick as one of the only examples to say that could actually happen in the NFL. Do you think there's something there? Do you think there's something to latch onto to say, if this doesn't correct itself, if Mike Tomlin and the Steelers don't get this thing figured out and become a contender again within the next year or two, Mike Tomlin starts to actually have the consideration of maybe, if not retirement, we test the waters elsewhere?
I think there's very little weight to the the verbatim usage of year to year. I think what I would put some stock into is that we are, like, of course, contract to contract. Like, I think there is a growing sentiment that we are reaching the final years of Mike Tomlin in Pittsburgh. Like, I don't think that means he's going to get fired or walk away within the next year or two or something like that. But I think that, 19 years is a long time. I think, the extension that happened last offseason, I think was a 2-year extension. So, I think we are operating under contract to contract territory, and there isn't this sort of blank check like there was a decade ago where it seemed like Tomlin would be here genuinely forever. So I don't put a ton of stock in what the exact verbiage that Pelisero is using here, but I do think the general sentiment is something that has been echoed, from you, from myself, and from a lot of different people talking about the Steelers, where there is a growing feeling that it's not just sort of this blank check anymore. It's not just sort of completely whatever Mike T wants, and that there could be change if it keeps going in a direction that I think we all are pretty, sounding the alarm for right now. So, I'm not buying it completely, but I think there is something to it where, there's cause for concern growing.
I agree with that. I think Mike Tomlin is in Pittsburgh for as long as he ever wants to be in Pittsburgh. But I don't think that Mike Tomlin will forever want to be in Pittsburgh. If they can't figure out how to win, there always seems to come a time when everybody has the realistic conversation of, I do love it here, but it's just not worth it anymore. And if that's the case, I do think he'd get a job elsewhere in seconds without question. He'd be the hottest name on the market. Teams would fire their head coach for Mike Tomlin. They would do that. I think the Steelers would do everything in their power to keep him. But I do think that if you can't figure it out in the next couple of years, that there is the conversation of like, okay, at some point we really do got to rebuild. And Mike T's looking at it going, I don't really want to do that anymore. You know, like I've done that and we've done this before. It doesn't have the same oomph. I will say this. I've been told so many times this offseason that no matter how loud the noise is, Mr. Rooney and Mike Tomlin are closer than they have ever been, and that their father-son relationship is crazy. But I've also been told that Art Rooney is being realistic with Mike Tomlin for the first time in a long time by saying things like, if you go out and draft Shedeur Sanders and that's your guy and it doesn't work out, we're hitting a point where it's hard to justify nothing happening because you are missing out and ruining the quarterback position year after year after year. You're missing on that, the greatest position on the field. So I think it goes both ways. I think their relationship is getting stronger, but also becoming more serious because of the lack of success. And that's a place we haven't been in a long time when it comes to the Pittsburgh Steelers, is that unrealistic, not fantasy world. That, because that's what it was. It was a no matter what, the Steelers could go 0-17 next season. Mike T's got a job the year after that, and the Steelers aren't going to do anything about it. That seems to be here, but maybe we're inching closer to something needs to change for it to remain here. The next quarterback is when that happens. If Mike T gets a quarterback in the NFL draft in 2026 in the first round, and he has their guy and they're ready to go and it works out, Mike T's never leaving. If Mike Tomlin gets a quarterback, that quarterback stinks, and the Steelers are in the same boat that they're in right now, again, the conversation's there about whether or not something changes. And I think that's when we have that conversation. But I do think drafting a quarterback is, it's the most exciting thing a coach can do, first of all. And it does keep you here for as long as you want to be here, as long as it does work out. What are the odds that Mike Tomlin, how much NFL time do you think Mike Tomlin has left in him? I mean, is in your eyes, is Mike Tomlin here in 10 years?
Ooh, I mean, yeah, he's in terms of NFL coaches, he's still relatively young.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think he could realistically be a coach, whether it's here or elsewhere, for 20 years for sure. I mean, geez, some of these guys seem like they are coaching straight to their graves. But yeah, I think he could still be in the NFL coaching for 10 or 20 years. Odds he's here in 10 years, I would say probably split right now. 1 out of 10, I'd say 5. And I think 2026 is the deciding factor year. Excuse me. Because I think this is, we're obviously in limbo right now. This 2025 season is, I would hate for this to be the season that truly dictated the outcome of Mike Tomlin's job. That would seem to be the wrong move, in my opinion. But
I agree.
Yeah, I think once 2026 comes and we see what happens with the quarterback position, that's really when we're going to have a stronger grasp on it. So I think it's split right now, but as a Mike T believer and supporter, I think I would tend to lean more on the optimistic side that he will be here pretty much until he wants to stop being an NFL coach.
I agree. He's 53 years old. To 40 seasons with one team just seems so wild to me.
Mm-hmm.
Possible, definitely. Wild, unheard of, also very true. And I think the Steelers would be the ones to do it. But man, you got to look good in that 20 years. That's the thing, is you start putting realistic numbers out there of, Mike Tomlin could coach until he's 70. That's 17 more years from now. And in 17 years, you can't go on another 8-year drought in the playoffs. That's, you can't be 26 years without a playoff win and finish another 17 years in the same city. So it's wild that we are here, but I think it's very interesting where Tom Pelisero is coming from. And the fact that he's talking about it, this is not a Florio. This is not a Filipponi. This is not us. This is Tom Pelisero saying, I don't know, man, maybe year to year is the way to label it. Wow. Wild. Absolutely wild.